Welcome to tonight's panel, How Can We Win Justice from Police Brutality to Hate Crimes? Some people in this country may think the recent media coverage of Trayvon Martin, a teenager who was stalked and murdered by a vigilante, as an anomaly, that these things don't happen in America. But the members on this panel tonight can share and expand upon how this is a regular occurrence in Black communities all over the country and right here in Oakland. So we have several speakers tonight here, and we're going to go ahead and get started with Alan Blueford's parents, Adam and Geraldine. Please welcome them.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for such a warm welcome in such a tough time in my life. I'm here today to speak on behalf of my son, Alan Blueford, who was murdered in Oakland, California, 5/6/2012. The circumstance of his murder has been just, I don't know how to put it. It's been changing. It's been different. It's been everything but the truth. Initially, we was told my son was in a gunfight with a police officer by OPD officer when we went downtown Oakland. At that time, my spirit told me that I told him, man, no, in the world my son could be in a gunfight. I said, could that have been friendly fire? The police officer said, that's something we're checking into. This is the morning of the accident because I know my son, I know his character, and I know nowhere in the world he would be in a gunfight with the police. So at that point, he said he didn't know. So I went on with that. He said the officer was shot in the leg and he was, it was a gunfight. Since this time, there's been a number of things we found out about the case that's very opposed to what OPD is saying. I can't really get into facts. There's litigation going on now, but there are some things that our friends and advocates here will be able to let you know facts of the case. We're devastated as a family, and we're seeking justice, and we're not going to lay down for nothing. There's only one truth. There's only one truth. And we're looking for it. Now I'd like to have my wife, Geraldine Blueford, speak, and she's going to take on from here, and we're going to kind of go down the line. Thank you guys again. God bless.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your invitation. Thank you for your hospitality. Thank you for your love and your support. I'm going to try to speak to you without, there's no way I cannot get emotional, but I'm going to try not to cry. I need to just kind of give you a little insight to who Alan Blueford was. Alan Blueford, my youngest child, was born on December 20th of 1993. So he hadn't even been 18 for 6 months when this tragedy happened. My son was a very loving and caring person. He spoke to everyone, everywhere we've gone, and every time his name has been spoken, there's been crowds of hundreds of people who've come out and shared warm stories and kind words about his character. From day one, this is someone that I call my Pookie. Just a couple of days before this happened, he crawled into bed with me and we watched TV together and we laughed. We enjoyed funny stories and commercials, and it was just funny. He just kept saying, he was about to graduate from Skyline High School, and there's this commercial, and I keep hearing it in my head, but there's a guy who has a conscience, and the conscience is singing. He's saying, "Hey, baby, I want that car." And my son would say, "Hey, baby, I want that car. Hey, baby, I want that car. I really, really want that car." And we were going to get him a car for his graduation. He had worked and saved up $3,000. He said, "Mommy, I want to buy my own car because I want to be, I want to make my decision. I want to earn it." And this is the kind of character he was. He worked with the special needs students at Skyline High School. And, the kids that couldn't fix their own lunch tray. And he would go up and they knew him by his first name, and he'd talk to them, and "What would you like today? I'm going to get you some fries because I know you want to get some fries. I'm going to get you a salad." He just made friends with everyone. And I have to say that this is the worst feeling, and I don't want any other mother to feel what I feel right now. This is just a travesty. And the hardest thing is, I keep hearing him say, "Oh, Mom, everything's gonna be okay." And I know that it's gonna be okay, but right now, it's not okay. It's not okay for the Oakland Police Department to come and tell lies about my son. It's not okay for them to okay for them to assassinate a young baby. I mean, it's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. And the hardest thing is next Friday, the Skyline is having their graduation. And I have to go attend and accept his diploma for him because Oakland Police Department robbed him of his life. They took it away. They robbed me of my baby. And I want justice for Alan. I will not stop until I get justice for Alan. And for this just makes no sense. This was a senseless crime. This is the simplest crime. I run, so what? It just doesn't make any sense for them to decide. They're not the judge. God is the ultimate judge. Nobody can decide to take someone's life. And a young 18-year-old man who has his whole life in front of him, a light in this world, a smile that you would just melt your heart. That just makes no sense for you to decide that you're going to shoot a baby in his chest 3 times and take his life. It was like he just assassinated him. What I imagine in my mind is that there is a target and he's just shooting at my baby and taking his life. And I won't stand for it. I'm not going to take that. They think they can come out and tell us lies and assassinate the character and bully and go around to different platforms and contact their newspapers and put out different things. They had a community meeting for the community because the community is upset about this. And they go over to Axville Gospel. The police chief takes his own questions and his own answers and asks the questions and answers them himself. How is that involving the community? How is that answering for the heinous crime that you've committed? And how can you justify a cover-up and your lies after this young guy's life is taken? I won't stand for it. None of us should stand for it. So no other mother has to stand here in tears. It's hard for me to take a breath. It's hard for me to take a step. And they could just go around and drive through the town like that's okay. He can go around and say, well, he's fairly confident. If you take somebody's life, you shouldn't even take a life because you are not the one that give life. So that you don't take lives. That's not what you do. You took an oath to protect and serve. That's not protection. That's not service. That's murder. And we will seek justice until justice is served. And you can best believe my last breath will be breathe until I get justice for Alan Blueford. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. Justice for Alan! Justice for Alan! Justice for Alan! Justice for Alan!
Whew. All right. So the next speaker is going to be Tanesha Blye, who is the cousin of Alan Blueford. Please welcome Tanesha.
Good evening again to all of you, and thank you again on behalf of our family for coming out and supporting us. I know that there was a lot going on immediately following Alan's death, and since the funeral, we have been somewhat silent, but that's because we have just had to take some time to mourn his death and to gather ourselves to be able to stand before you strong. I'm going to give you just background into the night that Alan was murdered by the police, just to make sure that all of you here are fully informed as to what you're supporting. Alan had gone with two of his friends to watch the Mayweather fight, as many of us sitting in this room did that evening on May 5th. After the fight, he needed to go back to his father's car or to home to get his phone that he left with my uncle. My uncle called him. As my aunt has said publicly, they're very involved parents. They would drop him off and pick him up. Most places he would go. He called my uncle. Dad, you don't have to come get me. We're waiting on some friends. And I left my phone in your car, so I'm coming back to get the phone. And specifically, I think he said, we're waiting on some girls to pick us up in a white Chevy. We are over here by 90th and Birch. My uncle and my cousin, Alan, exchanged words. My uncle, being a father, said, be careful, because that's not the place to be at this time of night. I'm all right. They'll be here in a couple of minutes, Dad. I'll see you in a minute. Okay. Now, this is when it becomes a little extremely confusing, because after he hung up that phone, all he was doing was standing out there with two of his friends. They were approached by two police officers in a car with their guns drawn. That's how they were approached. I think one of the other young men is 16, and the other one is around Alan's age, 18 years old. The police officers approached them with their guns out, and from what we understand, with their lights off. After a few seconds of being there, my cousin ran. They said he ran. He ran by Booker's, if any of you know that location. And within, shortly after that, he was shot by the police officer. Initially, they didn't call my aunt and uncle and say, your son has been involved in a shooting. He received 3 gunshots. He's died. They took the other 2 young men into custody. They had no reason to stop them. As a matter of fact, the police officers, and excuse me for backing up, were on their way to another call. They were responding to a call of something happening somewhere around 84th Street in Oakland. They saw my cousin and his 2 friends and just decided to stop them because they were 3 black men standing outside. They weren't even supposed to approach them, deal with them. There was nothing happening. But they took the other 2 young men into custody, and they kept them until 6 o'clock in the morning. And when they released them, they said, you don't have to tell us who the other young man is because he's dead. And so those two young men were left with the very horrible task of calling my aunt and uncle and saying, I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but Alan was shot by the police last night and he was killed. It was unbelievable. And when my aunt and uncle was able to gather themselves and go down to Oakland Police Department and say, what's happened? I received a call from my son's friend. They said he was shot and killed by a police officer. Is this true? They were left in the lobby for 2 hours. Now, we know how it is sitting in the lobby. Hey, so-and-so, good morning. How you doing? Oh, do you have that letter ready? You have that report? How are you? Everybody just walking over them, not paying them any attention. They're saying, we're here to see if our son is dead. Finally, a lieutenant comes down, believe it was Fleming, if I'm not mistaken, and says, there was an officer involved shooting last night and the person was killed because he shot the police officer. Twice. He shot the police officer twice? He shot the police officer twice. And so, yeah, he was shot and killed. Well, can you tell me if that's my son? Oh, he didn't have any ID on him, but he had a brown wallet, and you might not want to see it because it has a lot of blood on it. So after 2 hours of waiting in that lobby, that's what they had to deal with. My uncle, like he said, is there any way that it was friendly fire? Because I know my son. They knew it was him because he had a brown wallet. Before he left the night before, my aunt gave him money and he put it in his brown wallet, which also had a Skyline ID. So the initial story at 4 o'clock in the morning, I think it was put out via KTVU, was that there was an exchange of gunfire between a suspect and a police officer. The police officer was shot in the stomach, and the suspect received 3 gunshot wounds from which he died. We now know today that's not true. When we started asking questions, the story changed. Oh, well, the officer wasn't shot in the stomach, he was shot in the leg. Today, as the officer wasn't shot in the leg, he was shot in the foot. Oh, your son never fired a firearm. You know why they had to admit that? Because there's no gunpowder on his hands. That's something they had to admit. That's not something that they admitted out of the kindness of their hearts. That's something they had to admit because scientific evidence is going to show he never fired a firearm. So their story today is that he ran and he turned around, he stopped running to point a gun. That's not true either. And we're waiting on what the chief has told us to be, it could take 6 months, it could take up to a year to get a report to verify this information. After he was shot, there are witnesses that say his body was tossed aside, and there's someone else that will talk about information that has been gathered after the shooting. His body was tossed about as if they were looking for something. The other 2 young men were never charged with anything. There were no drugs. There was no weapon. There was nothing. That's why they had to release them. And so today we're here mourning the loss of someone we love so very much with a bunch of unanswered questions. And all our family has done from the beginning is ask for the truth. Why is it that we have to fight this hard and this long for the truth? It's ridiculous. And since Alan's death, there has been other deaths of other young men, boys. A 15-year-old boy, I think, in San Francisco was shot and killed with the same story. It's not stopping. So we stand here asking for you to help and support us while we seek justice for Alan, but we're seeking justice for all of our children. And we thank God that he's given us enough strength to be able to stand before you and to seek justice, because this is difficult. It's difficult to lose someone you love and then to have to relive that death over and over and over again. But we're going to do it until we get the truth. We're going to have to pull it out of them. They're not going to give it to us, but we're going to get it. And so just to be clear before I sit, many of you are asking what exactly is it that we want? We want justice for Alan, but what does that look like? That looks like legislative change. All this stop and frisk stuff that the police officers come up with, we're fighting against that. Racial profiling, we're fighting against that. The prosecution of a police officer, other than what Meserly got, involuntary manslaughter, seriously? We're fighting for something greater than that. That's what we're fighting against. And we know that this is a tall task. We know exactly what's before us, but we're fighting for it. And with the grace of God, we're going to get it. Thank you. Justice for Alan.
Thank you. Wow. All right. So the next speaker on our panel tonight is going to be Jack Bryson. Has been an outspoken activist against police brutality since the murder of his son's friend, Oscar Grant. Please welcome Jack Bryson.
Thank you for having me here. But first, I'd like to thank the community, because if it wasn't for the community, I wouldn't be here standing. It wasn't for you guys like ISO, Tracy, Beatrice, my teacher, Crystal Lee, Dana. There's so many names that I could say, but thank you for, like I said, if it wasn't for everyone here, I wouldn't be up here. I really don't know what to say, because, I mean, for 3 years, we fought justice for Oscar Grant, and that was hard. Like, that was the hardest part of my 3 years of my life. And I remember when this was over, pretty much, we had a press conference about Johannes Meserly getting, his job back. That's another thing I want to thank the community for coming out and supporting us, because of the community, Johannes Meserly's, to get his job back, it was reversed by the Supreme Court. Something. And that was a burden, because, that was just on my mind every day. But one thing that's been on my mind lately is like police brutality, like trying to fight for justice. And I really don't know what to say, because as I sit here and I see his mother in pain, and I see the father here, I feel that I shouldn't, I'm honored to be up here speaking with them, but I think it's about their family and Alan Blueford and seeking justice for them. And all I want to do is support them and ask the community to support and get justice for Alan Blueford. But this is real bothering to me. Like, I remember I just got back from New York, and I went to New York, and I was out there speaking, and I went out there to meet this mother. How many of you heard of Ramarley Graham? So when I got to New York, and we were on a train, and we were going up to the Bronx, I was kind of nervous, because I've never been to New York, and I was going into the Bronx, and the Bronx is totally different from Oakland. And when I got there, there was I joined the protest. I joined the march. And then after the march, people were talking in the street. And then I met Ramarley Graham's mother. Someone brought her up to me. And we became friends. And what she did, she took me into her house and she explained to me what happened to Ramarley Graham. Ramarley Graham just walked into his house and the police officers broke into his house from the front and back, kicked the door in, and went into the bathroom where he was at, kicked the bathroom door in, and shot him in front of his grandmother, in front of the nephew that was 2 years old, and in front of, the family. As we were talking, she was telling me, my son is gone. She was crying. My son is gone, just like that. Just like that, and she was like pleading. She was like, what do I do? I need help. I need justice for my son. And I didn't know what to tell her because I'm in California. But, because of the community, that people that I met through the movement in here, I started calling people that I met from in California that are in New York, and they started organizing for Ramarley Graham, so I was thankful for that. But when I came back to California, I just never forget the pain that I seen in her eyes. And then as I was on the airplane, I was thinking about that. The same pain that I seen in Ramarley Graham's eyes, I seen in Wanda Johnson's eyes. And I'll never forget seeing Wanda after her son was murdered. And then, I was telling myself, I'm cool, I'm done organizing, I need a break. I need a break. I wanted to back up out of it. And then, I get a phone call telling me about Alan Blueford, and, but I didn't want to go, because I was tired. But when I met A.B., Mr. Blueford, and then I seen his mother, and I seen the pain in their eyes, and Mr. Burris introduced me to him, and I don't know how we got on the conversation, but I was so honored that they asked me to help them organize, and we started, and Tiffany and Tanesha, we started organizing right then, and I was honored and to stand up and fight for their son, even though I don't know him, didn't know him. I still feel like he could be my son, and that's the whole thing. Like, I think of Ramarley Graham's, think about him every day. I think about Oscar Grant every day, every night. There's not a day that goes by I don't think about Oscar Grant. And now every morning when I wake up, I think about all three of them. And I don't know if I'm selfish, but I feel guilty. But when I'm around A.B., Mr. Blueford, it makes me really appreciate that I have both my sons alive. It could happen at any moment. And it just makes you, I don't know, like, when I think of my son, but I think of Wanda, I think of Oscar's daughter, Tatiana, that Oscar's not here. When I think, I don't know, it's when I see, Miss Blueford speak, and it's a hot day, it's a beautiful day, like today I call my sons, I could tell my sons I love them. I could see my sons, but they can't see their sons no more. And I don't know why I feel guilty about it, but it's just hard, and so, but what I could do, because I do have my sons, and what I could ask the community to do, please, no matter what we're going through as a community, please stick together, and please, it's not about our differences. It's not about our political beliefs or anything. Right now, this is about Alan Blueford and bringing justice for Alan Blueford, a young 18-year-old man who was supposed to graduate. That's a parent's dream, is to see their son graduate, and this police officer turned it into a nightmare. So please, please support the family. And Facebook, whatever you can, like they did in Egypt, like they did for Trayvon Martin, please do the same thing for Alan Blueford. Please do not let Alan Blueford and his family suffer. Please bring justice for Alan Blueford. And there's one more thing I want to say. They talk about how they were treated by the police officers. I just found out that when my sons were taken to jail, that they laid my youngest son, Nigel, on the floor for 2 hours in a coffee room. And when he was on the floor, he was crying and saying, "What happened to Oscar?" The police were stepping over him, giving each other high fives, while he was handcuffed for 2 hours on the ground. I just found this out. And the more and more I find out things, the more and more I get mad, you know. But I was inexperienced then, but a lot of us, we have experience now. And the things that we didn't do in the Oscar Grant trial, Oscar Grant, let's do it for Alan Blueford, and let's... See, what we could learn from Oscar Grant is they lied to us and tricked us and did everything they could. But we can't let what they did to Oscar happen to Alan Blueford. So, you know, please let's organize and bring justice for Alan Blueford. And one more thing, the mentality of the police officers. We were with Mr. Burris this morning, and the 15-year-old boy who was killed in South San Francisco. How can you, what they're saying is he was reaching for a gun, but what we found out is that the police officer tripped him and threw him on the ground and shot him. A 15-year-old boy, that's a baby. He hasn't even made the wrong or right decisions. You know, he's only 15 years old. So, you know, just think about the attitude of the police officers. And that should make us want to even fight even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. So our next speaker on tonight's panel is going to be Deborah Mendoza, youth and family advocate, former Oakland United School District teacher, and former juvenile probation officer. Please welcome Deborah to the panel.
Greetings. I'd like to thank the Blueford family for allowing me to work with them. I'd like to thank Jack Bryson for introducing me to the Blueford family and my instructor, Crystal Lee Crane. And so what I see when I look out into the audience tonight is I see a curiosity. I see people who want answers, and that's the kind of person I am as well. And so I've been following this, this death, this killing since it occurred. And basically, what kind of happened as a result, I attended the protest, I went down to City Hall, and I think what happened was, in a spirit of collaboration, when you have willingness and when you have expertise, you can get results. Okay, so what we did is we basically created and formulated a people's investigation to this killing, because I'm not satisfied with the answers that I'm getting from OPD, and I'm not satisfied with them allowing a teenage witness to have her statement, which is later retracted, be the primary, evidence of the first story that hits the media on what happened. Okay, so, OPD, they're strategic, okay? They have tactics about all this. So we, in response, need to be equally strategic and have our tactics in response to them. I'm not waiting 6 months to 12 months for the result of their police report. Okay, from the district attorney, we don't have a prosecution, so therefore we don't have a bookend on this officer. We don't even know his name. Without a bookend, we don't have a police report. Okay, where's our police report? Where's the people's access to the crime scene? Where do we get to look at those bullets? Where do we get to look at the evidence? Where is our access to this information? So basically, for the last, we've done a campaign for community accountability. We've gone out and canvassed the neighborhood directly in the area where the shooting occurred. We've gathered witness testimony of over 10 eyewitnesses whose account create a very different portrayal than what OPD would like to present. And what I'd like to say, things that we need to keep in mind about that night, it was a Saturday night. There was a boxing match on. There was birthday parties happening in our community. There were children playing volleyball in the streets. Okay, the place where he was shot and killed, there was children streaming out into the streets. The evidence that we're collecting is creating a very different story than what OPD would like to say about our community. And our community is not apathetic. Okay, when we go out there and we ask them to provide their statements, they're willing. Some of them are afraid. They're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of retaliation by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. They're afraid of retaliation by their probation and parole officers. Okay, and that's why we need protection for these witnesses. So I would just like to say that we don't need to depend on them to provide us with the answers. We can create our own investigation, which is equally viable and equally legitimate. And just when you pull people together, we got a consent form. Got people to sign it. This is legitimate. Just as legitimate as their internal affairs investigation, and much more. We're much more productive, much more results, much more efficient. Because I'm going out there with Mr. Blueford himself. We're coming at people at a real level. People don't want to talk to the police. So it's like, what angle of this situation do we have? And I would just like to, stand here in solidarity as well with Brandy Martell. Where's the investigation on that murder? Where's the investigation on the other murders of our young people, of our young black and brown community members? So I would just like to encourage you all that we don't need to wait around for a year to get information, and we have viable information. So just let's, in a spirit of collaboration, use our collective, expertise to get results. Justice, justice, justice.
Yes.
And justice for Brandy as well. So, recently a transgender woman, Brandy Martell, was murdered in front of her friends. Not only has the police in the city have done really nothing, also we need to call out the Oakland Tribune for being extremely disgusting and referring to her by her birth name. So that can't fly. And we need to actually stand up when people are killed in our communities. So the next speaker is Tanesha Massey, who is Brandy's sister. So please welcome Tanesha.
Thank you, guys. Well, I'm Tanesha. I'm Brandy's sister, and during this conversation, you guys may hear me refer to him as Turkey, and you also may hear me refer to him as a guy. That was how I was brought up, and I respected my brother's lifestyle. Anybody that knows me or know of us know I was his right-hand man, or go to say, or whatever. I just want the people to know that, okay, we grew up in a working middle-class home. My parents in January has been together for 40 years, and we never really wanted for anything. And so when it comes down to it, it's like when you're like this and you're a black male, you're seen as different, because black men, I wouldn't say black men, but black males, because it takes a lot to be a man. Black males are perpetuated as thugs and gangsters, and so when they come across homosexuality, they act like they have to be extra harder or something to show the world that, oh no, I'm a thug, I'm a gangster, I'm what the world say I am, I'm not like that. And let me tell you, that's a lie. That really is a lie. I've seen and heard a lot of things that will blow you guys away. And I just want the black community, teach your men or your boys to grow up to be men. You know, you don't have to hate anybody because of their differences. It is what it is at the end of the day. And it's unfortunate that nowadays we live in a society where monetary gain or pressure, which are back against the wall, only makes for movement. You know, we're not going to be moved if those two factors aren't involved. We're not producing leaders no more. We're not producing individual thinkers. It's just one synergistic thought that's ruling this earth right now, or taking over this earth right now. And also, like the violence within the black community, it's sad to say that, but it's an acceptable way of life. It has become an acceptable way of life for a black man to be killed, and everybody like, well, damn, okay, and let's go on. Who's gonna be killed next month, next week? And I mean, that's sad, but that's just the society that we living in. And so for us that's in this room, if we can find a way to infiltrate these positions, political positions, the police positions, then that's where the change is gonna come from. You know, rather than try to grow up to be the LeBron James or the Lil Wayne, we need to start doing some other things to make change. That's the only way that I see that we're gonna make a difference. And my family, they go back and forth and telling me not to say this, not to say that. And you guys don't know how hard mentally, physically, emotionally taxing it is to try to live each day, you know, not thinking about my brother in a way that he's dead, or trying to watch what everybody say. Like when my parents laid him to rest, they were saying, oh, I didn't attend your funeral because I knew something amongst the lines of you wasn't being brought home in, you know, in a transgender way. My parents are very religious, and so, like they said, they sent him home the way God sent him here. And if you can't understand that, then you have a problem. You know, that's just the way. Like, you just have to accept people's decisions, especially when it's not harming anyone, especially when it's not doing no wrong. Yet we'll go through hell and high water when a person expresses their opinion. Yet when black males, it's 100 homicides in Oakland each year, no matter who's mayor, who's the police chief, and they may be 107 next year, maybe 100 this year, and they think they did a good job. That's not police action. That could be they went out of town, or they calmed down, or whatever, or, you know, that's not police action. And so I just want, all I can say is for the world, I just want us to learn how to get along. We don't have to like each other or anything. I don't like a lot of things that people do, but I overlook it and keep it going, and I respect you until you disrespect me. And that's just it. And we have to learn. I don't know what the solution is. I don't even know where to start. Like, it really starts in the home, and we have to really try to bring our kids up to see and think in a different way than what this system is trying to teach us, because the American system is ruthless. It really is. If you think about it, it's ruthless. It really is. I used to think it was black and white, and okay, black on black crime, and that's just the way of life, but it's something different. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that has showed their support in every way, monetary-wise, spiritually wise, emotionally wise. It's really appreciated. And I just want you guys to know my brother was not no freak of nature. It was just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a choice, or I don't know what it is, because I am that way too, and I don't feel like it's a choice, because if I could choose something different, I would. But I just want everybody to know that he was cool. Like, overall, he was cool. You know, we all have our faults, but he was cool. And the black males need to learn, be a man, and don't worry about what nobody do. And also, just in case this get to the perpetrator that did that to my brother, let me tell you, you don't shoot 5 shots almost point blank range and only hit somebody in the lower left leg. You know, hit him in the torso, hit him somewhere else. So you're not a thug or a gangster for that. And, you know, work on it. And that's it.
Thank you. All right, so our next speaker on our panel is going to be Crystal Lee Crane, lead faculty member of the Violence Prevention Initiative at the College of Alameda. She teaches politics, sociology, and peace studies. Please welcome Crystal Lee.
Hey, baby. Hey. I'm really angry right now. Is anybody else kind of pissed off? Can I just... And pardon my French, I do see babies in the room, and I don't like to swear in front of babies, but there's 2 things that I want to do before I get into my little rant here. As first, I want to acknowledge my students who are in the room, because you're why I'm up here. Jabari Shaw, baby, hey. Everybody say hey, Jabari. Can we give love to Amna and Rosa here in the center? Baby girls, get up here. Stand, rise, good. And then my lovely Emmy up here in the front. Baby girl, stand up. Come on. So I'm here as a West Oakland resident. I'm originally from Flint, Michigan, which is no different than Oakland. It's just smaller. I'm here as an educator and as an activist and someone who plans on and lives every single day to be an interrupter of police brutality and hate crimes. I'm angry because we have accepted the death of black and brown youth for too long because we're afraid. We are afraid of the OPD. We are afraid of any police department, whether it's the BART police, whether it's the OUSD school police. And I think it's because we know that we will die, right? We have proof. And I will never fault you for being afraid. But I'm saying get the hell over it because it's not going to stop. Right? I'm not comfortable. I wasn't raised comfortable. I'm not comfortable now, and I know you're not comfortable. So accept it, because we're not going to get comfortable when we are in this space and we see all of these beautiful black and brown babies. Are you willing to allow them to die in 10 years because we have another darn meeting like this in 10 years talking about how we're going to get justice again when we have these babies here in the room, and are we going to protect their lives or not? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So I have a couple questions that I want to ask. Are you satisfied? No. Are you ready to do something about it? Yes. Then get the hell up. So together, right, I'm having you stand, if you can, baby, I'm sorry. My girlfriend here is here on crutches, and she's standing anyways on one leg. Thank you. People talk about unity in a lot of different ways. My mother's white and Native. My grandfather's from Germany, and my father is black. My father's in prison for murder. I'm the only person in my family without a felony or a higher conviction. Somehow I realized that crime and getting caught committing crimes, because a lot of folks in here who commit crimes and don't get caught, isn't an option. And so together, right, doesn't matter what color you are, what economic status you have, you aren't safe. The strategies and the tactics that Deborah was speaking about are real. And the things that Michelle Alexander talks about in the new Jim Crow are real. I use this book in my college classes because I have no other choice. If I don't, I am doing my students injustice. I'm allowing their lives to be in vain. I'm allowing their unsafety, the fact that they know when they walk out of my classroom, and I tell them, baby, you're safe in here, but I know when you walk out, and I know when I walk out, I'm not safe. When John Russo, former city manager here in the city of Oakland, was doing his last tirade of gang injunctions, February 2010, he went on TV and had the audacity to say that a gang member is anyone who is black or brown with dreadlocks and a hoodie. So that means every single day of my life, I'm one step away from being a gang member. And as you all can tell, I'm not that scary. I'm not going to hurt you. The worst thing you have to worry about is getting too much hugs from me. But I'm not going to, I'm sorry, I'm going to swear again. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that that statement from John Russo isn't systemically rooted in every single thing that we do, whether it's education, whether it's the police department, whether it's the probation department. Every single thing that we do is being watched. We are one of the most surveilled countries in the world, and they call us free. Are you free? No. Are you free? No. Then we need to do something about that. Thank you.
Okie dokie. So it's going to be, all right. So there's going to be technically 2 more speakers. There's going to be 1 more speaker, and then there's going to be a speaker that was in a panel beforehand to come back and make a couple of clarifications, and then we're going to open things up a little bit. So the next speaker on the list is Ashley Simmons, who's a member of the International Socialist Organization and has been a leading activist in the fight for LGBT liberation in the Bay Area since 2006. Please welcome Ashley.
Thanks everyone for coming out tonight. I really want to thank Alan Blueford's family as well as Brandy's sister for participating in this dialogue and sharing the discussion. It's really an honor to share this with people who are participating in struggle at such a time of extreme loss. And I think that we should all honor that and really appreciate their presence here today. I think, all of us are here because we agree that young men like Alan Blueford, young men like James Rivera and Oscar Grant, who have whole lives in front of them, shouldn't be shot dead in the streets. I think we're all here because we think that people like Brandy Martell, a leader, a successful social service provider in her community, shouldn't be left gunned down in the streets of Oakland either. And I think it makes sense that a lot of people have already begun talking about how a lot of this has to do with how ruthless the country we live in is. Not just how ruthless us as community members are to each other, which we can be as products of hate and intolerance, but I also think today's an opportunity for us to have a deep discussion about why these acts are happening and what we can do about it. I think it says something in this political era that people aren't sitting down when the police gun down their family members, that the queer community is not sitting down and accepting less than half equality and continuing on with how our lives are invalidated every day is shown in the violence in the streets and in the hate crimes that are happening. There's been, I think the movement is actually providing a lot of interesting food for thought. An activist at the rally for Brandy that drew out over 200 people to come and speak out against this murder, she actually proclaimed, a trans rights activist, she proclaimed that we have to look for the root cause. People's lives are not ended in a vacuum. We live in a society that prioritizes the police, ICE, the military instead of community. This just isn't about hate, it's about oppression. I think all of us, in an era where people, we've all been outraged by the murder of Trayvon Martin, and a lot of people becoming more educated about the reality of the new Jim Crow. I think we have to look at the structural oppression of Black people, the structural oppression of transgender people, in this society, and how the war on drugs and the rapacious prison growth has actually systematized the imprisonment and murder of young Black men. And all of this is going on at the same time while schools are being gutted and closed, avenues for youth of color to attend college are being shut down, and our community services are being ripped apart. It's no wonder the night that Brandy Martell was shot and killed, she was socializing in a car with her friends because they didn't have a space that they felt comfortable to have a good time on a weekend night as transgendered women. Transgender women of color in the city of Oakland, they didn't have a place in the gay or the straight community to feel comfortable and enjoy a weekend night together, and it had to end in someone's murder. There's been a lot of discussion in the wake of Trayvon Martin's shooting. There's been a big discussion about the talk that young black men often receive growing up about how you have to be careful, how you carry yourself, to watch out for the police, don't put your hands in your pocket. We've heard about that dialogue. There's a parallel conversation, the talk that happens amongst the queer community with transgender people who have to have the talk with their loved ones about what would happen, what to do if I'm a victim of murder, what's going to happen if I'm a victim of murder, which is very real. Transgender people are 16 times more likely than the general population to be murdered. My partner is transgender. When I was speaking to him about coming to speak on this panel tonight, he actually took the opportunity to have that talk with me and asked me to take care of his dog if he was ever murdered. I don't think any of us should have to live like this. I think we actually need to begin to step up and demand more than what the courts and the criminal injustice system are offering us. If we compare the case of a woman, actually like Cece McDonald, a black transgender woman who faced murder charges, was immediately jailed after she had to defend herself, after she stood her ground, against a Nazi. He's a Nazi because he had a swastika on his chest. She had to kill a Nazi, a man with a swastika on his chest, when a gang of nearly half a dozen people was ready to beat her to death. A man that she had to kill a man who is a proven record of abuse against his partner, and this is a woman who was immediately jailed. Luckily, because of a large, popular national upsurge, she's been able to plead to a conviction of manslaughter, but she's now going to be housed in a men's correctional facility where she will be a huge target for further violence. I think we have to look a lot beyond the police. I think we have to actually challenge how the structure of the police is taking away from better things happening in our communities, and how actually the structure of the police is enforcing this violence happening in our communities, in the first place. I think justice for Brandy actually begins with full civil rights for transgender people and all people in the LGBT community. Our government socially mandates these crimes by invalidating transgender people's identities and relationships in most states. There's states where your whole marriage can be invalidated after the fact. As a transgender widow in Texas learned when her firefighter husband was killed in the line of duty, she was summarily after the fact, when she was found out as being transgender, they took away all of his death benefits from her. And I think it's things like these and inequalities like these that actually send the message out there that these people's lives aren't worth as much. That's what's and that's what's happening when young men of color are locked up while their schools are being closed. It's this country saying something about how much their lives are worth. And so I think we have to stand up, and I think we actually have to demand better resources for our communities. I think we have to stand up and start talking about how budget cuts and all of that are actually connected to this struggle. And actually looking at I guess just looking at how communities intersect in these questions, women like Brandy, they have a hard time coming both ways from all sorts of communities they're a part of, and actually the police aren't usually an easy source of solutions. 9% of transgender women of color report being sexually assaulted by police officers. So I think they're hardly the first, our first source of recourse in a country where justice is slim. So I think, I'm really honored to speak on this panel today and talk about actually what we can be fighting for in our communities while we're fighting for accountability for these, I hate to like speak coarsely in front of children, but these pigs that murdered these children. That's not right. This has to stop.
All right, well. So we're gonna go ahead. Are people up for a little discussion, some question time, something like that? People got a little energy left? Got some energy? All right, right on. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. We're going to, before we open up to discussion, we're gonna kick it back to Deborah for a minute to provide a few, some information, so please.
Okay, just to clarify some of the evidence that we've collected, to make it clear that collectively our witness statements collaborate that Alan was not armed and never brandished a firearm. Collectively, that the officer stood over the body with the gun pointed at him. That he was not transported to the hospital, that he was refused or given negligent medical response. Also, we have evidence that he was pronounced dead at the scene at 12:20 and that he was transported to the coroner's office at 3:45 a.m., which is directly in direct contradiction to the statement that was given by Oakland Police Department.
Thank you. So we're going to kick it out to discussion for a little bit, and there's a couple people that we want to recognize first before we go ahead and open that portion up for the discussion. Pretty much the way it's going to work, just since we have such a large room, we're going to give people about 2 minutes each to speak, and we're going to let people come back, and again, there's also going to be time for informal discussion after the panel. So feel free, if you haven't for some reason maybe to get maybe a question answered or something like that, to stick around. There's some light refreshments and stuff like that, so don't go too far away. So we're going to go ahead and open up the discussion period with 2 people. You can raise your hand whenever anyone's speaking, and I'm going to try to keep track. And I'm pretty much going to call you by color of shirt. But before I'm not going to take it right at this second, but I'm going to let 2 people speak first. Tanesha Chapman, mother of Kenneth Harding, who was killed in San Francisco over jumping fairs, and then Blye Bento. So please, Tanesha, speak first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tanesha Chapman. My son was Kenneth Harding. He was murdered over 9 months ago by San Francisco Police Department for allegedly evading a $2 bus fare. The more I listen to the Blueford story in regards to their son, I cry with them, because everything they say is so much like Kenny's story. Everything keeps coming back to the things that the police said in regards to my son. They said that Kenny fired at the police. When they removed him from the train, my son took off running. There's 100 different YouTubes of the video of my son's murder. My attorney, Mr. John Burrs, told me, you can clearly see him running with his hands up, but yet he was shot 10 times in the back. and made to lay in the ground in front of a playground where children were playing in the middle of the summer, in the middle of the afternoon. They made my son lay there for over 28 minutes until he bled out and died. Sorry. And he was denied medical attention as well. The murder occurred at 4:30 in the afternoon, but he wasn't pronounced until after 7:30 that evening. No one contacted me. The next day, we're from Seattle. After I seen this on the news, I had to call out and find out if that was my son. They had his identification, they knew who he was, but yet no one contacted me. After my son's murder, me and my 4-year-old daughter had to uproot ourselves and move out here to fight for justice, get involved with the movement. When I came out here to release his body, I seen the movement that was taking place, and I said that there's no way that I can go back home knowing what I know. I have to be a part of this. Everybody else is out here fighting for my son, and I have to stand accountable. During the aftermath of my son's murder, there were many witnesses there that day, and so many people's rights have been violated. The witnesses, people have been stopped, pulled over, threatened by the police to have their parole revoked or their probation violated if they said anything. They went to people's houses, they confiscated their cell phones. This young brother right here, my comrade, Blye Carpenter, has been fighting for his life for almost a year now, for openly speaking out about what he witnessed on that day. There's more than him. There's Kilo Perry, there's Plady Clayton. There's many people who are fighting for their lives, for standing up for my son's life. Now, I have to live with the fact that my son had never had no children. He was 19, getting ready to start college. I'll never know what he was going to make of himself. And just the way that they demonized myself and my children afterwards. I have another son, a 22-year-old son. I have 2 grandchildren. And the things that the police did to us after they murdered my son was just horrendous. So to the Bluefords, I just want you to know, if anybody understands, I see, I feel, I know your pain. When I seen that this happened on the news, I knew what happened. My spirit told me. That cop pulled his gun out and he shot himself, and he was mad, and he killed your baby. And he thought he was gonna be able to get away with it, but like you said, there's only one truth. And the truth gonna be the truth on any day. So I'm standing here in solidarity. Thank you. I'm gonna make it real quick, everyone. Thank you. I'm standing here in solidarity because I support this family 100%. If all of you hadn't have been here for me after what occurred for my son, I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know that this was going to be my life. I just knew that I was coming to fight for my baby. But I want y'all to know, I couldn't be here without y'all. And on July 16th, which is the anniversary of my son's murder, because it all started on Muni, we're calling for a Muni strike. Muni has approved free bus fare for all the impoverished youth, but we want free transit fare for all the youth. Yeah. We don't want no one else stopped and frisked, having their rights violated. We don't want anyone else's rights violated to see what makes them eligible to be impoverished or not. We don't want these children who are going to school to have to worry about if they'll lose their life going home because they don't have any transit fare. So I'm asking all of you to stand in solidarity with me within helping to shut down the Muni Transit on July 16th. There are flyers in regards to the strike on the Oscar Grant display table back there. And I'd just like to thank all of you all for accepting me and having me here today. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Essentially, we're going to have two more speakers, and they're both going to be brief. One is Marco, who is Kenneth's Harding's uncle, and then Fly Bezno. So please welcome Marco.
Hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to give my condolence to Alan Blueford's family. It's very touching for me because what you're going through is what we started going through July the 16th. My nephew, Kenneth Harding, was on his way to see me. I have to live with this every day. When I got that call and he was saying, I'm on my way to come and see you, Unc. But through this whole trial, I'm going to gather up my thoughts because I am so much in pain and hurt to see that another black child has been killed by police. What is this saying about our society? What is this saying about the police is supposed to protect and serve? There's no more serve no more. That's out the door. That's out the door. But what I've come to find out is the fact that through all of this, this has woke up society. We got to wake up and take a stand. Because if we don't take a stand, none of us is going to be here. Our kids, you, none of us. It has to stop. But the only way it's going to stop if we make a stand. Me and my sister, and I know I got a brief moment. Me and my sister, when the call was made that Kenny had passed, through my sister, because I got a call that morning from my sister from Seattle. Marco, did you hear on the news that a 19-year-old was killed for not paying a $2 Muni transfer? My heart went out the door because I knew my nephew was in San Francisco. I said, well, the first thing that came to my mind, call the police. Call the coroner. She called the police. They act like they didn't know what happened. They don't even know. She called the coroner. They gave her the information. I was devastated. She was devastated. Do you know the hurt to hear a mother's cry? To hear a mother's cry is something that I don't want to hear again. But you know what? I'm hearing it every day now from other mothers. From other mothers. The cry is out here now. And me as a man, I've already given myself to God. I already know when I walk out my door, we've been going so hard in the paint. They don't want to see us. but I don't care. The fight goes on, because they're going to see us every day until we get justice for these kids. I've given myself to God. It's like when Dr. King says, I've already seen the light. If I die tomorrow, if I get assassinated tomorrow, I've given my blood for justice. That's all I care about. But in closure, I would ask everyone to stand for Alan Blueford's family. We endorse, the Kenneth Martin Foundation endorses the family. I know Brother Cephas Oscar Grant Foundation endorses the family. You're not alone. You're not alone. So I ask everyone, stand up for justice and stand up for what's right. Don't put your tails between your legs. Don't be a coward. Understand, this is a fight. God bless you.
So, sorry, it's been very overwhelming, I must say. So our last speaker is going to be Blye Benzo, who's fighting the so-called legal system for speaking out on what he saw the day of Kenneth Harding's murder. So please welcome Blye Benzo.
Yeah. Thank y'all for having me, and thank y'all for letting me speak. And a lot of y'all have been supporting me, and thank y'all for the continued support. I see y'all sprinkled all through the crowd, you know. But my latest legal battle has been about filming the police. And I was coming from college, from City College in San Francisco, and I come to 3rd and Palouse, where a lot of people congregate in my neighborhood, which is Bayview Hunters Point in San Francisco. And I was talking with my brother, but when I was walking up, some police were out there, and when they saw me approach, or they were riding off from the area, and when they saw me approach, they doubled back to come harass me. And they unplugged the radio that the people were out there listening to, and the people got angered. And they then took out their iPhone and started to record me. Specifically, it's about 30 people who are loud and yelling at the police, but they're focusing their camera at me. So I took out my camera and I started to record him. And that angered him. And he then put away his camera and assaulted me by slapping my hand that was holding my camera multiple times, 3 times. I didn't hit the officer not one time. And then I was put under arrest, and they had no reason why they were arresting me. They changed the reason why they arrested me multiple times during the trial, from the pre-trial to the actual trial. And also, just yesterday, I found out that these same officers were involved in another arrest, and their public defender put in a pitches motion on them, and my name came up. So I'm gonna be testifying in that trial, you know? And, but my whole thing though, my thing is this, man. I've been seeing a lot of injustices, from Oscar Grant to Trayvon Martin to everybody, you know, to me, you know. And right now, I'm on probation for filming a crooked cop. For 3 years, I can't leave the country, I can't leave the state without permission, you know, for filming a crooked cop. And the DA said that he didn't want to see me behind bars because he didn't want me to be seen as a martyr. And also, I just was watching TV at the public access station, and the officers who killed Kenneth Hardin Jr. got a gold medal of honor just the other day. And that's how they celebrating the deaths of young black males. But they still won't release the films. But we've been doing a lot of protesting around jobs, because my philosophy is if all us African Americans and minorities had jobs, then the police wouldn't have jobs.
That's right.
So we've been pushing because they got they got legislation that requires that each construction site that is funded by government funding has to help small businesses to be awarded the contracts. And so we've been pushing for small businesses to be awarded the contract, specifically my mom's business, BNC Painting and Decorating. And we shut down a job in San Francisco, and we shut them down for 2 days, and that resulted in us being awarded a $150,000 contract. And that not only gave our company a contract, but that got 6 people from the community working, rather than six people from outside the community, 6 people coming from Millbrae or from Milpitas to work in our community, rather than somebody in our community, which has a 70% unemployment rate for youth. So I think we need to come together, man. We need to focus on self-sustainability, man. We need to be able to eat without using American dollars. We need to grow our own food. We need to just go all the way completely against the system, because I don't believe in justice from this system. I mean, how the old saying go, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, right? This country was founded on our backs and taken from the Native Americans, and they also try to minimize the connection between African Americans and Native Americans, and the connection between Africans and Native Americans. But we need to come together, man, and find out the facts, man, and rewrite history, because before we got to get history right before we can get the future right. You know what I'm saying? And push for some of these jobs, man, because that's what time it is, man. Jobs and self-sustainability, and stand with these mothers and fathers, and you know what I'm saying? Because, man, I know it's hard, man, because it's hard for me going through all this crap I'm going through. I had to bail out for $95,000 for filming a cop. And Sandusky, he molested all kind of black boys out at Penn State, and his bail was $100,000. George Zimmerman killed Trayvon Martin, and his bail was $150,000. So, I mean, who did I harm? I was harmed. I was put in the hospital. But I don't believe in justice from these people. I can't beg these people for justice. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand what we must do is we must build our own nation. Because this nation was obviously built without us in mind, unless it was except other than on our backs. And I want to close with Uhuru, man, because we can't let our whole liberation be led with our colonizers' language, you know?
Before we disperse, I just wanted to say thank you again on behalf of the family. I hope you appreciated the information that we brought forward today through Deborah Mendoza, and I wanted to make sure that everybody here walked out of here with the truth. Ms. Mendoza has been working with our family in investigating this. She's been with us as our own individual investigator. She's a professional in this field, and she's gathered some very important information which shows us that along the run where the police officer chased Allen, no witness ever saw him with a gun. And she has, I think she said, 10 statements from witnesses. So despite what the police officers or Oakland Police Department's current story is that Allen pointed a gun at the police officer, which is why he was shot and killed, shot 3 times in the torso. And I don't think you can tell from the pictures, but my cousin wasn't a big guy. He wasn't threatening at all. But they say he stopped running, turned around and pointed a gun at the police officers. There are witnesses that saw him. You can mark within a couple of feet. Each witness is saying, I saw him, I saw him, I saw him, I saw him, I saw him. And at no time did they ever see him with a gun. A witness was there that saw him after he was shot. And I do apologize because I hate to do this with my aunt and uncle sitting here. I hate to rehash this, but they saw him right after he was shot. At no time did a witness ever see Allen with a gun. So that is a lie, and I want all of you to walk out of here knowing that that is a lie. We don't have to wait on the police department to get that information. We know that that is a lie. So we're going to come out with we're in the middle of formulating and developing a pamphlet with all of the contradicting statements, those statements that the Oakland Police Department has put out, and all of the contradictions and the truth that we have found from speaking to the people in the community. And we'll have those things available for you in the future. But as for today, we are telling you that we have gathered this information. Thank you. If you want to keep up with us, then you can always check out the Facebook account, Justice for 4 Allen, Blueford, and Family at facebook.com. And there is an email account, allenbluford@yahoo.ca. If you email that email account, you'll immediately get a notification of the up and coming, what we'll just term as events now, to let you know, like you would have been informed that we were speaking here tonight. And we just we ask for your continued support. Thank you so much, and God bless.
All right, so I promise it's going to be one last comment, very brief. Jack.
I just want to say this. It's just amazing when me, AB, and Deborah, when we go out into the community and we speak to these people, how these people, don't know us, but they know the truth, and they just open up and start telling us. But one thing they say is they don't want to talk to the police, but they'll talk to us. And what we're finding out as we walk by a store, everywhere we walk by, people say that Allen Blueford didn't do nothing. And it's amazing how these witnesses are just stepping up, and what we have to do is make sure that these witnesses are going to be protected. And not threatened, and we have to stand by these witnesses too. So whatever comes out of this, we're really going to need your support for these witnesses too. Thank you.